Hey everybody, welcome to Banjo Quest. I'm glad you could join me. I broke my banjo nail early in the week and then I broke it again just a couple days ago. I'm not playing today. I'm trying to preserve my nail and to let it grow out. So I thought it was a good time to talk about semi-fretless versus fretless and why you would choose one over the other. So there's really only one reason to choose a semi-fretless banjo over a fretless one, and that is because if you want to be able to have access to notes all the way up the neck, then a semi-fretless really is necessary. So if you go back and listen to the Sinful to Flirt album, you will see on track number 10, I'm using the entire fretboard of this instrument. So you'll get a sense of what it could sound like when you can slide down on the lower notes and then play the upper notes sort of in chord forms up the neck. And it's the only recording that I know of that has a semi-fretless sort of in action. There are probably others. You guys can probably point me in the direction of those, but I haven't heard them. So it's kind of neat to hear those slides plus a high part on the same instrument. That is really the only reason why you would want a semi-fretless, other than they also look cool. So you can, when you play these out, you get a lot of comments on them and it's kind of a neat conversation starter. So that's probably a distant second reason why to get a semi-fretless banjo, is because they look kind of cool and there aren't a lot of instruments that have both fretless and fretted sections. Now there are drawbacks to having a semi-fretless. It's not really a case of having your cake and eating it too, because you do have to face certain compromises with this kind of setup. The first compromise is that I can't position my bridge like you would on a fretless. So on a fretless banjo, the bridge really is movable. You can place it in the sweet spot of the head and extract the tone that you're looking for out of the instrument. You're not bound by any scale length imprinted on the fretboard. That's a major advantage for a fully fretless instrument. With a semi-fretless instrument, I might as well be fully fretted when it comes to bridge placement, because if my bridge placement isn't precise, I go out of tune or my intonation gets bad up the neck. So I mostly play the fretless banjo in keys A and D. I'm rarely dropping it lower than that. So I tune all the way up to A or D. On a fretless banjo, you can't use a capo because you lower your action and it creates problems, at least in my experience. So I never capo a fretless banjo. I always tune up to A and D. So for a fretless banjo, it's really not a big deal to play at the higher tension. You'll feel it in your right hand a little bit. But as you work your way up the neck, these strings, especially if you're working with medium to medium high action, which is where I like to put my fretless banjos, working these notes on the frets with the high tension strings is actually very, very difficult. It took me a lot of practice to be able to have dexterity up in this portion of the board, because I'm dealing with higher tension strings than you normally would on a fretted banjo that is capoed. That is one of the major advantages to capoing an instrument. I know there's sort of this anti-capo backlash going on out there, which puzzles me, because a capo allows you to maintain your lower string tension, which makes it really comfortable and easy to fret the instrument. So the capo has some drawbacks, but the capo has some major benefits as well. So on a semi-fretless, I've got to deal with this high string tension that really impinges on my playing up the neck. So it's not simply a case of, oh, I've got all of this playground to play with, just like I would on a normally fretted instrument that may be capoed with low tension strings. It's really its own beast. It takes a lot to learn how to deal with these high tension strings playing up the neck. So don't go out and buy a semi-fretless expecting to play in A and D and have it be as easy as it is on a normally tuned fretted instrument. So if you're shopping for a semi-fretless banjo, it's good to keep these two facts in mind. One, you don't have a movable bridge like you would on a regular fretless. And two, you can't just assume it's going to feel like your other banjos when you play up the neck, because you're usually dealing with higher tension strings if you're tuning in the keys of A and D. So those are two things to think about before taking the plunge on a semi-fretless instrument. You may be better suited to a fretless for your purposes. And remember, the only reason to actually get a semi-fretless, besides the fact that it does look kind of cool, is that you want access to these high notes. This instrument that I've gotten a whole lot of questions about is my treasured Model 400 Enoch. This is what I called, when I first got it, Excalibanjo, because it really is sort of magical and legendary. It just feels so great to play. It has so much tone, it has so much personality and character, and it also is so striking to look at. I waited 7 years. I got on Kevin's waiting list really early when I first started picking up the banjo because I knew that he had the aesthetic that I liked. I kind of like the Victorian aesthetic, so I wanted a Victorian banjo from Kevin Enoch. It took 7 years for my name to come up on his waiting list, and I finally got the instrument. So let me just tell you about the banjo real quick. I've gotten so many questions about it. It's a 12-inch pot. It's a rolled brass tone ring, and Kevin Enoch did all of the inlay, and the back neck is tiger maple with his amazing heel carving. He did a back strap for me as well. And we modeled the heel after some Cole Eclipse style boat heels where you've got this keel that's sort of divided in the middle, and he did a really beautiful job. And then we get into the pot here. The pot is a 12-inch, like I said. The interesting thing is the tone ring is inletted into the pot. So there's a lot of extra work that goes into that from Kevin, and it makes for a really interesting, unique sound. The other feature that we settled on for this banjo is that Kevin made a kind of horn-shaped pot. So it doesn't flare, but he softened the inner angle on the pot, and so it has this horn shape. I have no idea if it contributes to the sound or the tone of the instrument. Kevin's Tradesman semi-fretlesses are awesome, and I actually purchased a semi-fretless Tradesman when I was having this made so I could take all the measurements and see what I liked about the instrument and what I didn't. I actually liked everything about it, so we modeled the shapes of this instrument very much on the Tradesman semi-fretless. So anyway, that's a little bit about this instrument. It's featured heavily on the Sinful to Flirt album, so you can hear what it sounds like there, and I play it a lot on the YouTube channel. So that does it for me today. I'm going to hopefully grow this nail just by force of will over the weekend so I can prepare for next week. Whew, wish me luck on that. We have a special live stream coming up next week where I will have a special guest, and there will be some live old-time music beamed right from Misery Island Sound, my studio right here in high definition. So come over and check that out. We're going to have a lot of fun. That's going to be happening on Thursday of next week, January 31st in the evening, Eastern Standard Time. And I will see you next week on Friday right here on Banjo Quest.